Well, we saw a human target in the episode that's airing
Yeah.
tonight. We even saw him in the flashback. That's kind of interesting. Does that mean that he's going to play an ongoing role in sort of the backstory of Oliver? He's gonna...
I don't know about the backstory. I'm really enjoying the flashbacks this year, and but a lot is going to happen because we have a veritable checklist of things that have to happen before we theoretically get to the events of 101, right? So I don't know if the human target's going to continue through the backstory because we have a lot of things to focus on, but I would love to have Will back, you know, in our present day. I thought he was a really interesting element to the show. I mean, I know that it's a very specific, you know, gimmick is the wrong word, but set of skills is maybe better. But I thought he was great. I thought he was cool. And I really enjoyed, and I spoke with producers about this, I really enjoyed the way that Oliver got to behave when he was being played by the human target, because it was a little bit more of a fun, jovial, wisecracking version of the character. And I like that version of the character.
Jumping off of that, we see that Susan Williams is learning about Oliver's past in Russia, which is the first time something like that's really happened on the show. Can you tease a little bit about how that's going to play out and affect Oliver's present-day storyline?
Well, it hasn't really happened yet, but where they go is interesting. You know, Susan appears to be up to no good, but you know, in reality, she's following a very interesting story. I mean, the mayor of the town where she is a news reporter was clearly not on an island for 5 consecutive years, which, by the way, I feel like it's about time we did that. I mean, you know, I always think back to, you know, I always think back to the first Nolan Batman, where I think it's Ra's al Ghul that says, you know, the world is too small a place for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear. Theoretically, Oliver Queen was sort of, you know, even if he wasn't as famous, and he wasn't, he did perish in a very famous incident within our story. So I was you know, thought when he was in Hong Kong that someone would stop him and be like, "Hey, you look like Oliver Queen," but no. So I'm glad that it's happening.
This was also an episode where he took a blow to the heart with learning about Felicity's new boyfriend. Can you talk about how he's going to kind of either recover from that or move on from that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that Oliver was fine, if not slightly confused that Felicity didn't tell him that she was dating someone. That wasn't ever, like, I wasn't actually a huge fan of the idea that she wouldn't say something because of, you know, all the reasons that their relationship fell apart last year, which was, you know, secrets being kept. So, yeah, to me, when I played those scenes tonight, it was just like, hey, you know, we work together, so if you're keeping anything from me, why? You know, is it because you don't trust me? And if you don't trust me, is that a problem? So to me, it was really about getting to the source of, you know, what her issue was. It was less about Oliver, and it was more about, are we okay? Are we good? Because, you know, now it's not just, you know, you and me down there. We have John back in the fold. We have, you know, Thea operating the political, you know, axis of Star City, and we have these new recruits that, you know, look to us for guidance. So let's make sure that, you know, as the theoretical leaders of the team, that we're on the same page.
Looking back to Susan,
yeah,
that kind of tying into that, you have always been, or Oliver has always been very controlling of the information, not just about the flashbacks, but across the board.
Yeah.
How is it going to affect him to have somebody else potentially unveiling his secrets?
You know, hopefully it's building towards something that we've talked about doing on the show for, you know, for a while. We've had in separate instances, be it with, you know, the first person principally, I think, being Slade, who discover Oliver's secret, or a secret that he is keeping, maybe not the secret, and they threaten him with it. So, you know, I think that it would be interesting to, you know, if we go back to that storyline of her having information, that maybe she threatens him with it, but maybe his counter is different than what we've seen before. You know, I also think that it would be most interesting if Susan Williams wasn't just necessarily a spy in the weeds, sort of like in the way that there was no redeeming quality in Isabel Rochev. She was there to play Oliver from the beginning. So maybe Susan Williams is learning something, but concurrently, you know, maybe her relationship with Oliver will become, you know, dynamic, and she won't want to do what she did to Thea in the earlier part of the season.
In tonight's episode, Susan makes it pretty clear that she's interested in Oliver, and then Human Target, you know, suggests that maybe Oliver should pursue that. Do you feel like Oliver's in a place where he's ready to move on and pursue a new relationship?
I mean, I don't know if he's ready to move on, but it's time for Oliver to have another relationship. We actually had a moment earlier this year, and I was speaking with Wendy Miracle, and I'm like, look, guys, there's two things that we're no longer allowed to write about Oliver. We're no longer allowed to call him a billionaire because he's been broke for 3 years, right? And not broke, but not a billionaire. I mean, he lost his family fortune. So we're not allowed to say billionaire anymore. I said, concurrently, we're not allowed to say playboy. He's dated one woman since season 2, and, you know, like he hasn't even, I mean, he had a fling with Isabel Rochev. I mean, that was it. I'm like, stop writing playboy. If you'd like him to be a playboy, then by all means, start writing him like one, and then we can do it. So I think that it's, you know, I've had a couple of scenes with Carly, who's doing a great job as Susan Williams, and I do think that it's, you know, that there will be some exploration of a certain element of romance between the two of them, and I hope that people enjoy it, because I've found it to be really dynamic so far.
As someone who's not a billionaire anymore, where is he living?
He's living in the Arrow Cave.